So you've spent all this time and effort fine-tuning a large language model, but how do you really know if it's ready for the real world? Well, today we're diving into evaluation and validation. This is the critical stage that turns a cool experiment into an AI you can actually depend on.
Think about it. You've spent weeks, maybe even months, training this incredibly powerful model. It's spitting out text, it's answering questions, it looks smart. But the real question we have to ask isn't just, is it clever? It's, can we trust it? How do we know it's not going to fall apart the first time it sees something new?
That's exactly where stage 5 of the fine-tuning pipeline comes in. You should really think of it like the model's final exam, or maybe even a gauntlet. It's a whole series of intense tests that it absolutely has to pass to prove it's not just capable, but also reliable, accurate, and most importantly, safe. So, let's break down what this gauntlet actually looks like. Okay, so this whole process is the model's proving ground. And let's be clear, this isn't about just double-checking its homework on stuff it's already seen. No, this is about making sure the model can generalize what it learned to brand new, totally unseen data. That right there, that ability to generalize, is what makes an AI a useful tool instead of just a lab experiment. So how do we actually judge our model's performance in this proving ground? Well, we start by looking at its scorecard, kind of like reading its vital signs. These are the key metrics that give us a quick snapshot of its overall health and abilities. The first, and honestly, one of the most fundamental vital signs is something called cross-entropy. It's a core metric for measuring prediction errors. You can think of it like this. It basically tells us how surprised the model was by the correct answer. So a nice low cross-entropy score, that means the model was confident and it was right. But a high score, well, that means it was totally caught off guard and way off base. But of course, cross-entropy doesn't tell us everything. For more specialized jobs, we need a bigger toolkit. Let's say you're doing language translation or summarization. For that, we use metrics like BLEU and ROUGE. These basically check how much the model's output overlaps with a high-quality human translation. And for classification tasks, where the answer is just plain right or wrong, we pull out the classics like accuracy and F1 score to see how often it hits the mark. Now, numbers are great, but they only tell part of the story. To really get what's going on inside the model as it learns, we need to see it. We need to visualize its progress. And we do that with something called a training loss curve. Just think of it as a health chart or an EKG for your AI, tracking its performance over the entire training process. And this slide right here perfectly illustrates the story that a curve can tell. On the left, that's a healthy curve. You see both the training loss and the validation loss. That's the error on new data. They're both going down, and then they level off nicely. It means our model is learning and generalizing just like we want. But the curve on the right tells a much more dangerous story. The training loss keeps dropping, sure, but look, the validation loss starts to creep back up. This is a classic flashing red light for a massive problem called overfitting. It means the model has stopped learning and has just started memorizing the training data. Spotting a problem like overfitting is one thing, but how in the world do you fix it? Well, this brings us to the very heart of the evaluation process, the validation loop. This is where we stop just testing the model and we start actively making it better. This whole thing is an iterative cycle of refinement. It's kind of like a sports team running practice drills over and over before the big game. First, we test the model on our validation data. Then, we analyze the results. We look at the metrics, we study that loss curve. Based on what we find, we go in and tweak its settings, things we call hyperparameters. And then, we do it all over again. We repeat the cycle, making the model systematically better with each and every loop.
And this, right here, is where the real magic happens. You'd be amazed. Seemingly tiny adjustments, like tweaking the learning rate just a little bit, or even just improving the quality of the data you're feeding it, can have a massive impact on the final outcome. It's all a constant process of tweaking and optimizing to get the best possible result.
Okay, so once our model is crushing its practice drills and its loss curve is looking healthy and stable, it's time for it to graduate. We move to the next level, seeing how it actually stacks up against the competition in a standardized arena.
This is what we call benchmarking. We take our fine-tuned model and we put it through a series of standard public tests. This gives us a really objective way to see how it performs compared to other well-known models out there. It's an absolutely crucial step to understand where our model truly stands in the wider world of AI. But listen, even a model that's topping the leaderboards on benchmarks isn't ready for prime time until it passes one final, totally non-negotiable test. And this might just be the most important part of the entire gauntlet. the safety check. Because at the end of the day, performance means absolutely nothing if the model isn't safe. You can have the most accurate model in the world, but if it starts generating harmful, biased, or just unsafe content, it's not just a failure, it's a liability. We have to rigorously test for these risks. For any model that's going to interact with people, this is a deal breaker.
And to do this, we bring in the Guardians. These are specialized AI models and benchmarks designed to be our final line of defense. You've got tools like LlamaGuard, which is trained to act like a safety filter, flagging risky content. And then there are things like the WILDGUARD benchmark, which is designed to intentionally stress test our model with the kind of malicious, tricky prompts it might actually face out there in the real world.
So after running this entire gauntlet, after passing all the scorecards, surviving those tough iterative loops, proving itself against the benchmarks, and getting that final all clear on safety, now our model is finally ready for the world.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that evaluation isn't just some final box you check off. It is the entire process that transforms a powerful algorithm into a tool that is genuinely trustworthy. You know, these days, building a powerful model is getting easier, but building one that's trustworthy, that's the real challenge. That's the hard-earned prize.
So now that our model has been fully tested and validated, the next step is actually getting it out there for people to use. Join us next time as we dive into the final stage of the pipeline, deployment. Thanks so much for watching.